We've always been lurking, but you found us. It's 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 Eastern. That's when we generally pop up live. We pop up live because we can. We pop up live because then there's a little pressure. Then there's a little pressure. If I just speak to like a mirror, someone asks, are you speaking to a wall? No, I'm speaking to this microphone here and a camera here. The microphone's here. Camera here. I'm standing against a wall in my COVID closet. Started a thing here, right? I had to consider the news and talk about it. Emil Amok here, Emil Guillermo. Emil Amok to you. This is my takeout, my Emil Amok's takeout, my takes on all things considerable. We call it, we subtitle it WDAAT, what does an Asian American think? Because we need to know now. Now we have an Asian American who's an official nominee for a major party for president. It happened this morning. It's not surreptitious. It's all virtual. But Kamala Harris has garnered enough delegates. We knew that she had it sort of in the bag, but the official vote count was, I think, yesterday and today. She went over the amount, and she went on a phone call with the other delegate saying, hey, she didn't say she accepted. She said, we're in this fight. She's leaving the formal acceptance for the convention later on, but it's not a coronation, but it is somewhat like what the option was, who are you for president, Kamala Harris or nobody else? There's no one else running. So it was sort of like, this is the way politicians like it, by acclamation, by vote, by voice vote, or in this case, where it's a foregone conclusion. Is it democracy? Well, considering the circumstances, I think everyone's on board. All the polls suggest Democrats, at least 80% of the Democrats, are fine with Harris replacing Biden stepping aside. And now the momentum, the money is all on the side of Harris. So we're going to talk about that today. Talk more about the NABJ thing. So, where Trump is making this all about race. You can see my column on the ALDEF blog, aaldef.org/blog, where I just put it plainly. This is Trump doing what Trump does. Makes everything about race, makes everything about the feels. And the thing, his chaotic playbook, his chaos playbook says this is how you split up an electorate, you divide on the basis of race, and he has really no momentum now. You think after you get shot at, you'd have a little momentum, but he has zero momentum now. Kamala Harris has all the momentum, and he had to do something, so he goes to NABJ, and the latest about the National Association of Black Journalists is that the reason for the stall is that Donald Trump did not want a live fact check of anything he was saying. How about that? I heard a lot of things about, he was complaining about the equipment, complaining about NABJ couldn't get their act together. When in fact, what the NABJ officials are saying now is that Donald Trump would not go on. He stalled because he didn't want a fact check, a live fact check of anything he was saying. That's what it tells you about the kind of guy that Donald Trump is. And what he did, as I mentioned in my ALDEF column, aaldef.org/blog, is he was just putting it bluntly for all to see. This was a message for all those undecided, mostly white voters out there. Here's a person who you can't even tell what race she is, Indian, black, who knows, versus standard issue white guy who doesn't understand diversity. Who would you rather have? That multiracial, multi-ethnic, who knows what she is, or standard issue white guy? That's the way I saw how Trump was playing it. Read my column. I'll bring up Professor Daniel Phil Gonzalez to talk about it in a sec. Also, I was reading something in the Atlantic, and there was an analysis there this morning that said, no, the reason why Donald Trump did what he did is because he wanted to point out that blacks have an unfair disadvantage. And Kamala Harris was getting that unfair disadvantage by being black, which I thought about it, said, that doesn't make sense. That's a kind of complaint that Vanilla Ice would say, that, hey, those guys are black. That's an unfair disadvantage to me, the white rapper. It's not right. It's not fair. But that Atlantic's fairly smart, but that's what one of their columnists was saying was at play here, that it's Trump claiming that Kamala Harris is getting a black advantage. It's unfair. It's unfair. It disadvantages us whites like me, Donald Trump. That's what the claim. And I said, no, that's not it. Because Donald Trump wouldn't cop to the idea that there was any advantage to being black. I think what he was really trying to say is, hey, I'm white, she's black, who you want to vote for? You want to vote for me because I'm white, right? That's what that NABJ stuff is all about. And Donald Trump, as I mentioned, in a desperate move, because he has no momentum. All right, so we'll talk about that with Daniel Phil Gonzalez when he comes up. I also want to bring up Dan because he always likes to, it's not bragging, but he's the College of Ethnic Studies, Asian American Studies, College of Ethnic Studies, San Francisco State University. And he always likes to mention that he did some studies in international relations, which is not insignificant. Oh, what's that? Oh, not insignificant. And so I always value his insight on these matters. I get my swish in there. So I like to bring him up, especially after yesterday's news. And you can watch our episode 730. This is 731, where we talk about the hostage situation. I have to admit, I saw the hostage. I saw the speech, the announcement that President Biden gave yesterday, and I was all choked up about it. That was more chokifying because there is still the chance that they may not be here. They may not get here. And then throughout the day, it was just all of the news. And then finally around midnight Eastern time, they land at Andrews, Joint Air Base Andrews. And I was happy, but I didn't get emotional, not nearly as emotional as I was when I saw the half Filipino woman win for the U.S. women's Olympic fencing team. I don't know. Because you never know. It's happening there. And, so when you see a victory, you see something in the Olympics, I got emotional. But actually, I didn't feel emotional when I saw them land last night. I felt a sense of relief, though. A sense of relief. Okay, so I want to bring up Professor Daniel Phil Gonzalez to come talk about the hostages and what they mean. And Dan, welcome to the program.
Yes, sir. Good Friday. Must be Friday because I'm looking at Emil.
Yeah.
Live instead of just watching him on recording. But as it is.
So, Dan, I know you know about these things, the hostages, but I know a lot of people it just seems that this time around, it's great, but you recall when the Iranian hostage situation in the 80s,
it was
that
handled
was,
very sloppily.
yeah, but that was a big deal that everyone
It was a
was,
huge deal.
yeah, everyone was looking at that and seeing. I mean, it was like everyone counted the days. It was just a big deal, right? And now, some 40 some years later, a hostage is taken, and it's almost like the Wall Street Journal reported on it every day, but it, because one of the reporters was
That's
taken,
right. Yeah.
but it just wasn't the same kind of thing. And there were so many prisoners, and Paul Whelan was involved in this release, and he was held for 6 years.
Yes.
So what is going on? How should normal people look at this hostage story and the hostage release story?
I think the reason the Iranian hostage crisis situation happened during the Carter administration, and what was horrible about that event was the attempt to rescue them was
Yeah,
bungled. You know, the military got caught in a sandstorm. They had choppers go down. They actually lost lives trying to attempt a rescue, and they didn't even get close. They didn't even get close. So it was a major embarrassment. I think, among other things, it probably cost more than any other event close to the election. Probably, it certainly cost Carter the election.
yeah,
So anyway, it was a big deal because it was so many people, and it was ambassador, ambassadors. It was embassy staff and stuff.
right. And
So that
yeah,
was a direct insult to the State Department process, diplomacy and everything else. So nowadays, you're seeing more individual, you know, hostage taking, and that's harder to deal with. It actually is very much harder to deal with, and planning uh, assaults, right, by SEAL teams and all that is not something that people will do for an individual hostage, right?
yeah,
They might do it for a larger group of people. But look what's happening in Gaza. I mean, we have a few hostages still alive, I'm sure,
right.
including several Americans or at least people who are dual citizens, and that's not being settled very well. And Iran is involved in that process.
Yeah,
You know,
and to the degree that you're dealing with one or two, it doesn't get the kind of attention because
that's right.
you don't have the mass scale of 30,
That's right.
40, and but what does get you is Paul Whelan was there for 6 years, and Evan Gershkovich was in there, for like 18 months or something like that. I mean, it just the time is, but still, it's one person,
Yeah.
and so
It's
a
one,
lot,
it's one person. The other thing is that the people put themselves at risk, right?
yeah,
They voluntarily went to Russia, sometimes for family, and other times for business. But a lot of the people who were taken, obviously, are journalists.
yeah,
And the one thing you don't want to do as a journalist is put yourself in that kind of direct line of fire with the Hungarians, and what he's done, and he's completely shut down the same thing that the Russians have done. They've completely shut down anything that resembles real journalism,
yeah.
and it works. It works for. I mean, Putin, according to electoral results, right,
Mhm.
is extremely popular. I mean, it's an overwhelming majority of people, and even if you think he greased it a little bit, it's still really a huge number of people, and they're completely misinformed.
Yeah,
People are completely misinformed about Ukraine, everything else, and
yeah.
so
They get propaganda, and they
yeah,
don't have many options besides propaganda and
and
Putin.
then they have an injustice system, which obviously just gives the results that Putin wants. So people who get arrested have little or no likelihood of getting off as innocent, right? They're
Yeah.
not high high likelihood that they will be convicted
Well,
outright.
well, well, tell me. So, an average American, I mean, I'm a news guy, so I was watching this throughout the day. I knew it was history, the biggest hostage release since the Cold War. So there was something about it. You know, I
Well, I
was
think there are 2 dozen people. I haven't seen the entire list,
right.
but we're talking
24,
about 24 people, and it was multiple nations, right?
like six
And
countries.
yeah,
So,
and that in and of itself is a diplomatic gymnastics. It really
yeah,
is. I mean,
yeah,
that takes a lot. Not only effort, it takes years of building trust. Okay,
yeah.
among
And
different nations.
in the end, that's the sort of the thing. It's like, hooray for diplomacy. Hooray for, I mean, you don't have to go to war.
Yes.
You don't have to use arms. You have the threat, maybe,
Well,
but
yeah. It's not only the diplomacy. You're absolutely right. It's also consistency.
yeah,
You have to have stability and consistency in the relationships, in the diplomatic relationships, and you have to have consistency in the policy and program that you put forward. So there aren't interruptions in the process that you've undertaken to try and negotiate people's freedom.
right.
That's the way it works.
Yeah.
Okay, and so for people to look at Trump and this guy mouths off and says I could have gotten it done tomorrow. Putin would not like that. I mean, I'm
Oh,
certain that he is upset about that, and Mr. Trump really needs to be rethinking his own safety because
well,
if
yeah,
he keeps that
Trump.
stuff up, he's going to be a target for a number of people, and it's not just going to be coming from the left or the right in the United States.
Yeah. Well, Trump thinks he knows what he's doing by, I was tough to Putin. But, he was not tough to Putin in Helsinki back then, during the Trump administration's meeting there. He was really pretty much Putin's lapdog. And, and Trump talks a lot about, Kamala Harris, she's going to be their play toy. Well, no, Donald Trump is a better play toy than Kamala Harris for Putin in terms of getting what Putin wants. And you know, I wouldn't, I wouldn't uh, put it. I mean, this whole thing could really maybe be seen as a big fu to Donald Trump by Putin to do this, because who gets the kudos for this?
Yeah.
But Biden and Harris, who are on the tarmac greeting the people coming back home, the three Americans. But yeah, you mentioned this about consistency and diplomacy, but we're talking about five countries
Yep.
returning a total of 8 prisoners to Russia, right? And it's Poland,
And
Norway.
one of
Yeah.
them is a known assassin.
Oh yeah, the guy who was, coming. He was, I think,
He was held
he
by
was in
in
Germany.
Germany. He was held
Yeah,
by Germany, and
yeah,
Germany did not want to give that guy up
yeah,
because he killed his target on German soil.
yeah.
So that's the problem. Okay, the problem is people are going to do hostages and they're going to do murders if they think they can get away with them. I think it's a laugher that the guy got caught.
Yeah.
If he's that great an assassin, and if Putin thinks he's a hero, why the hell did the guy get caught? Okay,
Well, just for the PR. Look, we freed him. I freed this guy. That kind of thing.
It-
But he
yeah,
was.
but they play him as a hero.
Yeah.
Okay, he's a hero because he assassinated somebody that Putin didn't like, and that was supposed to be a good thing for the Russian state. That's supposed to be a good thing for the Russian people.
Well, you never know how Putin is going to drape those facts to make it look really good for him. But
Yeah.
Germany gave him up. There was also Slovenia, Norway, and Poland. Those five countries returning a total of 8 prisoners to Russia. Now, in exchange, Russia and Belarus returned a total of 16 prisoners to the U.S. and Germany, and it's this is like the opposite of World War III. This is like diplomacy of
Yep.
a kind of magnitude of all of allies, the U.S. with the main enemy, Russia, and we should just marvel at it, right? At this, how this worked. We got peace.
Well, yeah. Like I said, when to get you had to get all of them together. Yet there had to be an attempt on a diplomatic level, 1-to-1. People from the State Department in the U.S. had to meet with diplomats of each of those countries on their own ground. They had
Yeah.
to talk to their heads of state because this stuff has got to be okayed by the heads of state. So it works its way up through their equivalent to our State Department, and that happens over time. And so the kind of people that the executive, right, the president of the United States puts out there as ambassadors makes all the difference in the world as to whether
Right.
or not you're going to be able to actually construct a plan like this and actually make it work. That's the way it is. And
Yeah.
so when you looked at the kind of people, not only that Trump appoints, but that Republicans have appointed, to ambassadorial positions, it's really crazy. I mean,
Yeah. Well, look, consider that Trump. One of the big criticisms of the Trump administration is he left a lot of State Department
open,
positions
open,
vacant. Yeah,
yeah,
open.
naked city, no,
Yeah.
no
And so,
diplomacy, you
so
know.
it sort of rings hollow when Trump makes claims. I could have gotten him out. I could have gotten. Yeah.
Well, but it
No.
doesn't ring hollow with the people who vote for him. You know,
Right.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Well,
you know,
but here's the thing: you have a situation like this where hostages are freed. They come to America, and USA, USA, USA is not hollow, not not here.
not by a
Maybe in
long
the
shot,
Olympics. Yeah,
not
not
by
in
a
the
long shot.
Olympics, maybe. But this should be a unifying thing, right? We should
But
be.
see, not only do people who support and glorify Mr. Trump, right,
Yeah.
have short sightedness in terms of international relations, I
Mhm.
would say it's a majority of Americans really don't care that much
Yeah.
about international relations. They only care about it when it hits the news front and it stays live for a while. Look at how people have cooled on Ukraine.
Oh, a
Why
lot.
do Republicans? Yeah, why
Yeah,
why
a
do
lot.
why do they have effect? What they actually have effect in arguing against supplying arms to Ukraine. They actually have effect, even though we're looking at war crimes on a massive level, right?
Mhm.
In Gaza, war crimes on a massive level, right? In Ukraine, and then they still say, "Nah, we're better off leaving that alone, walking away." They're obviously like Mr. Trump, useful idiots. They're clearly helping Mr. Putin, right?
Hey,
And any
hey,
of the
Dan,
other,
Dan, you don't have to call him Mister on second reference here. That's New York Times style. You can just call him
oh,
Trump and Putin.
well, I'm just trying to be professorial.
That's good that you're formal though, because everyone has picked up on the Mr. Trump, Mr. Trump. Yeah, on second reference, New York Times style says New York. It says use Mister, but they would call Mickey Mouse Mr. Mouse on second reference too. So just just think of that. Just think of that.
Yeah, but
Newspaper style. Look,
what do we
I was
do with Minnie? Is she Ms. Mouse or Miss
Ms.
Mouse?
Mouse. She'd be
Ms.
Ms.
Mouse. Okay,
Mouse.
okay. We're going to be a little. We're going to
So,
follow a little bit of liberal protocol, right?
yeah.
Ms. Not
Well,
Miss.
look, style is important, but
Yeah,
we're a little more informal. But still, look.
yeah, but people, yeah. Look how people are using style though these days. It all has political meaning,
Oh
right?
yeah, of course. Yeah,
You gonna pronounce it Iran or Iran or
yeah,
Iraq or Iraq?
you're right. Yeah,
I mean,
or well, how
it
about
all has political significance, man.
yeah, or
So
how about Kamala or
yeah,
Kamala?
Kamala,
Oh, that
Kamala.
which is it's racist to
It
say Kamala.
rhymes with tamale,
Yeah,
sort
Kamali,
of, sort of.
Kamala, and Mamala.
Kamala, Mamala. Well,
Mamala,
Mamala's cute though. Mama,
Kamala.
you got to admit that's cute.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Well, I have first name empathy with Kamala because Emil. A lot of people say Emil.
really?
Yeah, yeah. Some people say Emil, oatmeal.
Come on. That's.
I've had people say oatmeal. Yeah,
Oh well, but they were doing it as a joke, right? I mean,
I don't know. Well, they thought
it was
Emil.
conscious. It
They
was
they
conscious.
thought Emil and they got hungry.
I,
Oatmeal.
I know some guys that like their name pronounced Emil.
Emil.
Yeah,
That's right.
Emil.
There is Emil. Emil. All right. Anyway,
Okay.
Kamala. She's Kamala here. All right.
Yeah,
So
Kamala.
one last thing
Kamala.
about the hostages.
Kamala.
One last thing about the hostages. So we should be. I mean, so when you greet people about the news of the week and you say, "Hey, what about those hostages? USA, USA, USA." I mean, that should unite us because I don't know the politics of any of these
The individuals.
hostages, except some were anti-Putin. I think some were anti-Putin.
Yeah.
The Wall Street Journal guy wasn't, but I think one. Well, I don't even know if the Radio Free Europe person was anti-Putin. She was just a journalist there.
It's
Who,
journalists. Yeah. Well,
yeah,
see, most Americans don't get that either.
yeah.
They all think journalists all have an angle.
Well, some journalists do. I mean,
Yeah.
there's some journalists who
Yeah.
write from a perspective.
But then
But
there's people. Yeah. But the kind of people who are going to want to take the risk
mm,
of going to Russia, knowing that they could be taken as a hostage,
mm.
right? They're going to be inclined to be much more careful, right?
Oh, I
You don't want to poke the bear.
yeah.
You
Well,
want to try and do as fair a job as possible. The problem is, it's naive to think that you're being a fair and objective journalist
mm,
is going to be treated, with respect, in Russia. That's the part that I think,
yeah,
don't go. Okay, don't go.
yeah.
Go to somewhere right across the border from Russia, and then go in and out and be safe. But don't be staying overnight, man, where they can snatch you.
Well,
Because
this is the thing about that kind of assignment, and kudos to those who have done it. And I had a couple of foreign assignments, but just I was detained once. I was detained. Actually, I was detained both times. It's a bad thing for an assignment. I was detained once in China, and detained once in Manila, and detained. I wasn't placed somewhere.
what
You,
year? Okay, what year were you detained in China?
2001.
Oh, okay.
And that's when I went to Hong Kong, and the Beijing police got tired of this one state, one country, two systems
Right,
baloney, and they came down to the Hong Kong police and said, "This is how we do it in Beijing." And they
right,
saw someone like me, and they held me for a couple hours in a nice little room, but they held me.
right, right, right.
They held me, and then
What was their premise?
that I had a knife.
Okay. Oh,
This is my knife. I had a little pocket knife, and I gave it to the magnetometer folks. I said, "Here's a knife. I'm going in with my gear. Here's a knife." And they looked at the knife, and they looked at me, and they said, "Come with me." And it was like 10 hours later, I get
that was
released.
the premise.
Yeah,
Okay. Well,
but
once again, it kind of shows you what they're willing to do. Just
yeah,
for,
yeah, yeah,
you know,
yeah. And I'm out of. I have no control, but thank goodness I had some good allies that invited me to China. Of the Philippines, I was just coming in with my gear, and once again,
what year was
this
that?
this is '83 during after the
Oh,
after the
oh.
assassination,
before
and
or before or after?
oh, this is after. This is
Okay.
after I come in.
Whoa.
I come in to do the story about Aquino's funeral, and they held us for about a couple hours.
There you go.
Hours, couple,
There
but
you
they,
go.
they let us go. They let us go.
Sure.
But still, all right. So international journalism. My hats off to all those people because journalists get killed covering
I got
real
stopped
news stories.
for trying to bring in mezcal that wasn't
Mezcal, not
yeah,
good.
it was I got held for a while. I
Prescription
just
mezcal.
I just stood there and drank it at the border.
Yeah.
So
Well, okay. Well, that's good. I just think that hooray for the hostages who were released. Uh, but here's one thing: is it a good thing to give up all those bad guys for innocent people? Is innocent people for bad guys? I mean, Trump tried to say that there was money involved, but there was no money involved.
no, he's
Innocent
gonna
people
lie
for
about everything. So just ignore him
but
on these kinds of issues. Yeah, it is a
yeah,
good thing. It is a
it
good thing
is.
if that's what it takes. I think it's a good thing if that's what it takes. Okay.
All
Um.
right, all right.
Now the question is, Is it going to be like what happens to some of the people who got released from Guantanamo and black sites in other countries, and then they get right back, online and start practicing launching RPGs again, right?
Yeah.
And that's the question. What kind of criminal are they? What kind of stuff will they do? And a lot of the people that were being held by the U.S. were white collars. They were white collars. They were not friggin' assassins.
Yeah.
Okay, so that question that you're asking, from not just a moral perspective, but from a practical perspective, is most important when you're looking at this colonel, right? Russian colonel in the FSB,
Yeah.
the modern day equivalent of the KGB, and that's why Putin thinks he's valuable. So is he going to be put back out there again? Well, they better give him plastic surgery, okay? Because his face is going to be easily recognizable all over the friggin' place. He better be a master of disguise, but he can't be that good because he got caught. You
Yeah,
know?
that's true. All right, all right. So, but what ending our hostage segment here? I'm telling you, people who, if you're going with your friends and you're sitting around the beer, wine, you're talking about the news, and someone says, "What about those hostages? USA, US." That's real. This is real American patriotism, and it's diplomatic. It's peaceful.
Yeah, it's
It,
really
it,
important. It's really important, but it's the only time. This is the only time people pay attention, though. That's the problem. You know, when
well,
you look at the difference in news coverage,
mm,
you can't get depth on all of the major networks. You
yeah.
can't get depth, not international depth. PBS does a better job
Oh
dealing
yeah.
on a daily basis with international depth. So there you go, man. I
Well,
mean,
look, you look at the international capsules in newspapers, if people even
yeah,
read
yeah,
newspapers
yeah,
anymore. But on
yeah.
the big stories, like the Wall Street Journal, they had a big takeout because it was their guy.
Yeah.
Uh, New York Times to a degree, some of the other papers. But for the most part, international stories from here on, it's always like, here's our international capsule. And,
Yeah,
meanwhile,
yeah, and the best coverage was the world section of print newspapers.
yeah.
You know, I mean
Well,
that was
yeah,
the good stuff.
because yeah, they go in depth,
Yeah,
and no one on TV. You need a picture.
yeah, yeah,
They'll talk to him, a major or some kind of retired military guy or a diplomatic guy, and they'll talk to people, and they have talk,
yeah,
but to try to put it into context. But the thing that drove that story was, yeah, Biden's press announcement or news conference announcing it, and then the wait for the planes and the transfer, and then them getting out. Evan Gershkovich or Gershkovich hugging his mom. That's a picture.
yeah, yeah.
That's a
But
picture.
should what? Okay, should Evan go back? I mean, he the reason he
He,
got caught is because he said, "I'm going to go back and I'm going to
yeah,
wake up the millions of people, the millions of Russians who want Putin out, that who want a democracy." I mean, don't. Are we gonna go get him again, or is he
I
gonna
don't know.
get dead? I mean, they tried to kill him twice, right? He got toxic poisoned
Yeah.
at
Well,
least a couple times, so they may still go after him again. You know?
yeah. Well, the people who have that kind of burning passion. I mean, look at Navalny.
Yep.
Navalny was supposed to be
Yep.
in on this, and because he you know, was poisoned and died in prison, he opened up space for more to be freed. So that's kind of his legacy, even though it would have been more important that he be alive so he could lead, you know, the dissidents, or he could lead the side in Russia that wants to stand up to Putin from in exile, right? Like it's an Aquino thing when Aquino was in exile,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
Marcos. But anyway, but this is once again, it's international stuff, and as much as I want people to be aware of the global context of all the things that are happening, sometimes it's just important that they pay attention to the stuff right there in their country, in their state, in their city, in their neighborhood, right? To drill down, and because what happens is there's an overall, shrugging of shoulders, not my life doesn't, they don't see the intersection between what's in the headlines and what's in their life. Although, the economic news certainly is going to be have some kind of impact. And
Sure.
and the Kamala Harris news. Okay, let's go into Kamala. She's got the delegates now. She's got. I mean, they did it virtually.
It's official.
Yeah,
It's official.
it's official. And Republicans will say, "Oh, come on, the Democrats are going to pull a fast one on us." This is like they sidestep Biden, and
Some of the stuff Johnson, he opened his mouth immediately, man, and he said, "That's illegal." Okay, idiot.
well, all right, but how do you? I mean, a lot of people are
You
going to carry this anti-democracy thing that this is another rigged election, another just like Saddam Hussein, the only person on the ballot for the
This is
Democrats.
bait and switch. This
Yeah.
is bait and switch. Yeah. Oh yeah.
All right,
You mean
all right.
like you guys do every day?
All right. So what's the best answer? What's the best answer for
What's the best
people
answer to what?
who
To Johnson?
who are skeptical about
Oh,
what the Democrats did? Was there anything? There's nothing illegal with what they did.
this was exactly the way that it would have happened under any other circumstance.
Yeah.
Okay, my concern was, yeah, I said that the best time would be if Biden accepts the nomination at the convention and says, I'm going to step down." Unfortunately, after the debate, it's like, oh man, this is so bad that the pressure was mounting horribly, right? People were holding back money so that the campaign funds were drying up. And so this was a good, it was the only time to be able to do it. My concern was that if they did it at this time before the convention, that all kinds of people would announce. And I was worried when Manchin said, "I'm thinking about it," right?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Because if he's thinking about it, I mean, that guy, Mister, I still believe in coal mines, you
yeah,
know, you know, and because it makes me lots of money. I mean, my family is filthy rich because of coal mines.
yeah.
That guy,
Oh
and
wait, but Dan, everyone fell in line. Even Manchin, they all fell in line and got behind Kamala Harris. That
there it
was
is.
that was intentional
And that was
because
intentional, and I think it was really good, and it shows you not only the character of one or two people, especially Biden and Harris, but it shows you the character of all of the potentials.
oh yeah,
A lot of the people that are being considered right now for veep, and the ones that aren't constantly mentioned in the news, there's five or six, right? They're constantly
yeah.
mentioned in the news, including Whitmer, even though she says,
He
"Hey,
says no.
cut that out." I'm doing fine as governor. Now, could we have two female presidents in a row? In the future, I don't know. It's possible. You
Well,
know,
I think look, one major shock, like if Kamala Harris was just white and a woman, that would have been that's a major shock. But she's not white. She's black and Indian and Asian and a woman and from San Francisco. So
so
she's
you don't
got
believe
that.
that? You don't believe that she's just playing the black card, to get ahead? I mean,
No,
I
no,
mean,
no,
and
no.
you put that
Well,
together. I mean, you put that together with she slept her way up.
oh,
And
yeah,
and and,
well,
and we know his willingness. We know Mr. Brown,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah. Oh, I
his
know.
his penchant for what can we say? Multiplicity of dating.
Yeah. Well,
Or
see, this is the thing. This is the thing. The Republicans can say whatever they want, but if they want to go down that path, we've got a man. They forget that their nominee is a guy who's found
you can
guilty.
grab them. You can grab them. You
Yeah,
can grab them.
yeah, and he's
And they let you.
right, and found guilty of sexual assault,
You
and
know.
he's got three wives, children from three different wives. I mean, I don't know how the Republicans they won't be able to get away with that. Although they will try. Oh, this is so scandalous. Except that the Republican nominee is more scandalous
Yeah,
and
yeah.
more
Well, they
inept.
went after her for not passing the bar the first time. And all he said was, all he yeah, but the way he put it, well,
Oh
she's
yeah,
not qualified because she never passed the bar.
yeah. Well,
Okay, the whole state of California is going to elect a person who didn't didn't pass the bar to be attorney general, right? And then the whole
but
Democratic Party is going to vet somebody who is completely unqualified,
see,
right?
this
For
this
Western
is
Bar.
the terrible. Well, just the
Well, like
the thing about Trump.
how I kind of get on your case when you use the word stupid, right?
Mm.
But
Trump before
because
Trump.
well, not only for Trump, but there were people around him as well.
Yeah,
I will use the word stupid for Mike Johnson. I will
Mike
use the word stupid. You know, you're a trained attorney, man, and you come out and you say this is illegal. Come on, the next question is going to be, would you please explain why and how it's illegal? Like when people say, I believe in the Constitution. What's your favorite amendment, man? And why? Besides the Second Amendment and you got your gun, what else do you like about it? Because you certainly don't like free speech. You say you want free speech, but it's free speech so I can use the N word when I want to.
yeah,
That's your version of free speech. I
yeah,
can use the C word when I want to, you know?
yeah.
Okay?
Well, all right. So let's see. We're talking about Kamala Harris, and well, we're talking about Trump's stupidity there. But Kamala, I want to read this. This is from the Asian Pacific American Institute for Congressional Studies, APACS,
Yeah.
and they're released today. Today, Vice President Kamala Devi, they're using the full name, Kamala Devi Harris, made history by becoming the first Asian American and Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander to secure a major party nomination for President of the United States. Notice they don't mention her African Americanness. See, everyone sort of
Yeah.
picks and chooses
Pick a
how they
side, pick one.
identify her.
No,
But
no, the country, even though 12% of the society is bi or multiracial, right? Yeah, the other 88% of America has a hard time understanding that,
yeah,
right?
but what's interesting is, look, Kamala Harris is both biologically black and Indian at the same time. Whether she wants to say it or whether you want to confer it on her, it's her business and it's also your business.
Yeah,
But
but is it the right half or the left half?
well, this is the
Is
thing. And
it the upper half or the lower half?
look,
I'm
look,
confused.
I'm
I'm
reading this.
confused.
I'm
You
reading
know?
this. I'm reading this from APACS, the Asian Pacific American Institute for Congressional Studies, and their release calls her by her Indian name, Vice President Kamala Devi Harris, made history by becoming the first Asian American and Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander to secure major party nomination for President of the United States. And that's great that they're going out to their people, other Asian Americans, and they want to highlight her Asian Americanness. But I think after all that NABJ stuff this week, I think it's important just to identify her both at the same time, all the time, to say Asian American and African American, or first African. I mean, people should watch to see how the leads are written in print if they read newspapers, or how she's identified on television or on radio. They should identify her as the first African American, uh, first African American and first Asian American, blah blah blah. Both. She's both at the same time. I think that's the only way you can satisfy. I suppose you can forgive an organization that's strictly Asian American or strictly African American because their audience, I guess we have to like silo it out to our audience. You know,
Well,
but but then that means that people see things and they cross silos and say, "Oh, here she's Asian American, here she's African American." I
well,
think the best thing
okay.
is
This is
to
a
call it
really
both.
good. This is a really good sign for a reason that we haven't talked about yet.
Yeah,
Can you? Even up to 10 years ago, the general practice among African Americans is you ignore the other part and you
yeah.
emphasize blackness. That's it. You're black. And
Wait,
it, and
was
and a lot of African American that I knew, that not necessarily close friends, but people that I was aware of, they practiced that attitude. And we're not talking about academics, people that I work with, especially in the College of Advancing Studies.
But that was always the case, to always defer to your blackness, because
Yeah,
I'd never. I mean, I've heard people talk about, oh, the one drop rule, like that was,
yeah,
but
and and those were all real things. I mean, that was all part of slavery, and also Jim Crow.
yeah,
That's all real, okay. But what I'm saying is, it was preferred. Look at the census. I think it was the 1990. They're getting ready for the 1990 census, so it was 1988, and there was discussion about the category of mixed race.
right.
And a lot of African Americans, including leading politicians, members of Congress, did not like the fact that people could defer to mixed race. Okay, they wanted people who were part black or half black, you know, to just go black.
And
And
I
it's the
think,
numbers. It's the
and
numbers, right?
you're right, right. The sole motivation is we need the numbers, and here's the thing about when you're Asian. We need the numbers too, but when we have all our numbers, we're only like 26 million people. You know,
Yeah,
when
yeah,
you have all the numbers, you know, Chinese, Indian, Filipino, all the ethnicities, and which is still small compared to the others. You need a coalition.
yes,
That's why. That's why it just makes sense to talk about both. To talk about her African Americanness or her blackness and her Indian Asian Americanness. In Asian American being the, I think you can get away saying Indian, it's specific, but better to be general to call her Asian American. It's definitely wrong to call her Southeast Asian. And I've heard a number of I mean, on some of the major networks, call her Southeast Asian, which is just wrong.
yeah,
We don't have to make a major
yeah.
case
Well,
about it.
don't call Filipinos Southeast Asian, because they
Ah,
say that's wrong too.
that's
Okay,
right.
even though they're Southeast Asian.
Yeah. Well,
You
Filipinos,
see, look at the map. Look at the map.
we're Asian.
Not according to a lot of Filipinos,
I
man.
know.
I mean,
I
the trend about 30 years ago, there was a trend among Filipino students that we were Pacific Islanders, and it was because Samoans and Hawaiians
Yeah.
were being really culturally and politically assertive, right? They were actually engaged in discussions with the First Nation people, Native Americans, and there was at least an attempt at some unity there, right?
Yeah.
Because they had common issues. But Filipinos tried to jump in on that, and I said, "Look, man, there's a whole stack of things over here that tell you we're Asian, and then there's this little bit of stuff over here that tells you we're Pacific Islander, right?" And I said, "It's okay to try and claim that, but especially if you're Chamorro, right? You're from Guam."
Yeah.
But other than that, man, we're Asian. They
Well,
don't want to. You got to, all of this stuff is about identity and power. It's
right.
about identity and power.
And
And so,
the only way you get power is if you identify in coalition with other like people in numbers and get the
well,
number.
but a lot of people, I agree with you. Okay, in real terms,
Mm,
okay, political terms, in terms of social action and all the rest of that, right? I
mm,
agree with you. The problem is that there are still people who identify singularly, right?
yeah.
They want to identify singularly. Okay, I have been called a fake Ilocano because I'm not as Ilocano as a completely Ilocano literate person. I wasn't born in Ilocos areas in
Is
the
your
Philippines.
is your mother Ilocano too?
No, my mother's Bisayan.
Yeah.
She's
See,
from
you're
Cebu.
yeah.
So I'm
That's
fake
what I
on both
thought.
sides. I'm a
So
fake
you're not.
Cebuano and I'm a fake Ilocano on both sides.
Oh
But
man.
and that comes down because people want to stress their authenticity. Okay, they derive a sense of power, personal power and sense of community from for that personal power
Yeah,
by
well,
being one thing,
we
being
well
know.
we want to be one thing, or we want to be mentioned, right? And that's why, if you read my column in the ALDEF blog, aaldef.org/blog, where I talk about what happened at NABJ, I refer to my column in 2019, and while everyone's talking about Kamala's blackness,
Yeah,
I always talked about Kamala's Asianness. I always feel like, hey,
yeah. How about
you're
this?
gonna be president, or you're vice president. This is the closest Asian Americans have been to the White House. Mention us, right?
Well, okay.
And she never did. She
I
never
kind of
did.
want to take. Yeah, she didn't, but because it's a cultural thing. The way she dealt with her Asianness is as a cultural thing, right? She talked about values, right, and her
Yeah,
mom and how she taught her, and she also mentioned my mother wanted me to understand my blackness. That she
yeah,
wanted me to understand black culture. She wanted me to go to school, and develop
yeah.
black friends in the community and all that. And so her mother was the understanding person about what it meant, right, to
All
be
right.
half black, half Indian, and
Look,
she handled it really well.
I always said, look, it's up to you, and because this is the standard of the census. What do you say you are? You are who you say you are. You know what?
Yeah, well, but but back in '88, and back in '88, there was a fight
I
over
know. I
mixed
remember
race.
that fight.
But it wasn't just, and it wasn't only just white people that were fighting against it. It was African Americans too.
Right, right.
And that's
Because
just numbers. That's just
yeah,
numbers. But I'm saying on top of that, and actually underlying that, is the cultural power. People
right.
want to identify singularly, as possible for the cultural side. Now,
Yeah.
I grew up in San Francisco. Nobody was straight up. I knew one family that was straight up German
Mhm.
because they were German immigrants
Did they have a
from,
Kaiser
from
helmet?
East Germany. From East
Straight
Germany,
up, straight
they
up
were
Kaiser.
brand new German immigrants. I knew families that were Hungarian because they were brand new, immigrants, refugees from
Mm,
Hungary. This is in the 50s, right, and
mm,
60s.
mm,
So that was, but then there were Mexican Americans who were aware of their Indianness, right? That they had an American Indian background, that they had that they had background, that kind of background as an Aztec thing,
mm.
that kind of stuff. They already were starting to develop a sense of Mexican cultural nationalism, right?
Yeah,
And so a lot of Filipinos wanted to identify because we had Gonzalez as a last name. You
yeah,
could identify, especially in the rural areas, right?
yeah.
You could
No,
identify
I
as being
understand it.
Mexican.
I think Kamala did it right. She, like, when she announced for president out of Oakland, she mentioned her mom,
Yep.
and she always mentioned, as I write in my column, and I refer to what I wrote in 2019. Uh, she wrote about her mom. She was never shy about that, but always in certain contexts. And
Yeah, that's right.
I was just surprised that when given the opportunity in January of 2019, as CNN was kicking off the 2020 race,
Yep.
she would not mention her Asian Americanness. She would not mention. She wouldn't even mention her mom in that context. She was black. That's who she was. This is my introduction to the world, and I felt bad because I wanted to identify with her as a fellow Asian American, and so I'm not criticizing her really. I'm just
Yes,
saying,
you are. But
well,
it's okay.
but
You are criticizing her, and it's all right to criticize her for
well,
it.
yeah, but I'm
But I understand why she did it. Do you understand why she did it?
Well, if you read my column, I said, look, I understand that she's strategically mentioning race. I used to say, oh, she's being political. I guess that's a little less abusive than what Vivek Ramaswamy and what Donald Trump are
Yeah, yeah,
saying about her. Because Vivek Ramaswamy say, "Oh, she's denying her Asianness." I'm not saying she's denying it. I'm saying, and I'm not like Trump saying, "Oh, Trump is saying, oh, she's using her blackness as an advantage thing." No, I'm saying she's using it strategically. Is it the same thing? Is it as offensive as the way Trump and Ramaswamy? But she never denies it. She's always who she is,
yeah,
and I
yeah.
I I think that's where I'm different from Vivek and
Yeah.
Trump,
Yeah.
because she never denies who she is. She's just isn't open about it. She's not public about it in the way that I'd like her to be public, but that's her prerogative.
Yeah. Well, I think at this point, she's going to play it. She's going to be public about it, and
Now she's going to be public about being Asian.
yes,
Now.
yes, and you know why?
Why?
Because Indian Americans have become so goddamn powerful
Oh yeah,
in a
yeah.
short period of time. They
Indian
are
American.
now. They have surpassed the Japanese Americans
Oh
in
sure,
terms
yeah.
of concentration of and the Chinese Americans. I mean, they
Yeah,
in a short period of time.
yeah. Well, I in terms of numbers, it's still a Chindipino Asian American community. Chinese, Indian, Filipino.
Yeah, yes, it is.
Chindipino.
Yeah, but we got
However,
to.
however, you look around, you look at the professions, you look
Yeah,
at and all right, aside from the professions like the media and medicine and higher ed and all that, aside from that, you look at where the money is. Who are the donors?
yeah, big time.
Who are the bundlers?
Yeah, yeah.
Who are the people who are political players now? And Indian Americans have surpassed, I think, both Chinese and Filipino
And Japanese Americans.
and
Yeah.
Japanese Americans.
Yeah.
I think they have in terms of representation and and that relates to
Oh,
power.
I was talking in terms of economic political position.
Oh, well, yeah, economically,
and
certainly.
it was completely predictable for several reasons. While I was clerking law school, uh, there were Indian companies, new immigrants, right,
Yeah,
that were buying up property in the Tenderloin and in
yeah.
the South of Market. Okay,
Oh,
you
yeah.
were here. You were here. You were around for that.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
You know, and
I've got friends who are Patels, who are, they had the worst hotels when
what's
we were
Patel
growing up.
Co?
They had the worst hotels when we were growing up, and now they live in Pacific Heights and Sea Cliff, and they're like rolling in it because they were the best business people.
And they also followed a younger Chinese American model where they started doing mini malls
Oh
in the
yeah,
burbs, and
oh yeah,
down roads that had a tendency to be residential areas for upscale, upper middle class,
yeah,
residents, and they would build mini malls in those areas.
yeah.
Gas station mini mall, and they made a whole lot of money.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, the thing is, uh, the Indians are entrepreneurial, no doubt,
Oh,
and with that,
the Chinese are not.
well, I mean, the Chinese are, but I mean, compared to Filipinos not as entrepreneurial. I mean, we're in
They
this
try to
country.
be, but they do small scale. They do
Yeah,
too much small scale.
I don't know. I mean, look, we can be proud of Jollibee, but I think that's Filipino money. That's foreign money.
That's how you pronounce it, Jolie.
Jollibee, Jollibee.
Jolie. I
Oh,
thought it was
Jollibee.
Jolly. Okay, Jolie. Okay, it's okay. They got
Jollibee.
a nice one in Fairfield.
Yeah, I know they got Jollibee is big. I mean, if you like fried chicken, like fried. I mean,
I remember. Yeah. Do you remember when they said we're not going to do pancit anymore?
I
There
don't,
was-
but they love spaghetti though, don't they? They love spaghetti because
yeah, but it's
spaghetti is
banana ketchup. Banana ketchup, though.
it is the pot pancit. It's the pot one, the pot noodle, the pot one. You got the pot noodle in
You think I like the thick noodle?
the thick one. Oh, the thick
Yeah,
one.
yeah, not the pancit bihon. The
Oh,
bihon is the the rice
oh,
noodle.
they got the thick one. Come on, line up. Line up. It's the thick one. I want the thick one.
Yeah, man. There was a time when I thought it was bullcrap rumor. I said, "What? We're not going to have pancit anymore." And I thought, "What? What
Not
the
the thick
hell? I
one.
thought
Not the
this was a
see-through.
Filipino place, man. What are you doing, man?
Not the see-through
What are
noodle.
you doing?"
Not the
Okay,
see-through noodle. Not
no,
the
no, they're doing
see-through.
chicken. They got that from. There's another chicken. There was a great chicken franchise, man,
Yeah.
in the Philippines, but I can't remember the name of it. But it got hyper developed.
Mis- Mr. Manok.
It was
Mr.
like
Manok.
yeah, it was like the equivalent of Starbucks except chicken. It's in like every block.
Starbucks.
It was
Captain Manok. Oh,
yeah,
you got Captain Manok.
If you got Colonel Sanders, we got General General
Sorry,
Ramos.
or,
Yeah.
or
Anyway,
yeah, Sergeant.
okay. Back
Okay,
to
all right. So, Kamala,
identity and power. Identity and power. Right.
yeah, all
She
right, but here's
now
the
her
thing.
half Indian identity is a power identity now.
It
Okay,
is.
so she can use it. She can use it.
Look,
And what was the name of that movie? The
what
black and South Asian, the
Mississippi,
Indian romance.
Mississippi Masala.
Yeah,
That was
that's a long
that
time
was a
ago.
classmate of mine.
Really?
Yeah, uh, yeah. I see her face. I see.
But you can't remember.
Mi-
Yeah, but
no,
you're having an
Mira,
elder moment. Yeah, you
Mira
can't remember.
Nair, Mira Nair.
Okay.
I think that's the movie you're referring to.
Yeah,
Mira Nair.
yeah.
We were in film class together.
Wow.
She made films, and I am now doing this podcast with Daniel Phil Gonzalez. Yes, Mira Nair. She directed Denzel Washington, and I'm only talking about. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Mississippi Mandala.
Mississippi. Masala. I don't know. Anyway, look.
Yeah.
Look. Here's the thing. Here's the thing about this. I see this whole thing. First of all, Donald Trump, whether he knows it or not, he was controlling it. I mean, he didn't want to go on. He didn't want to be fact checked live. NABJ reports that. And he's been doubling down, saying, "Oh, she's black, all that." But I think what he was doing, and it's in my column, and it's the very big. He just, hey, look, all you voters out there. I'm white, she's black, and if she's not black, she's Indian. Who do you want to vote for? The white guy, right? That's what Donald Trump was doing. Just calling attention to the obvious. This is time to support your brother white guy. This is white preservation at its finest. And that's all he was doing. And it's working for him. I don't know. I think it's got to work for him because
It's
nothing
working
else.
for him. Yeah, but it's working for him in his ever shrinking
Right.
Trump population. You know,
Well,
so
this is the thing. This is the thing about where Kamala Harris is, saying, well, notice she has changed the race. It's no longer about saving democracy. I mean, that's one aspect of her campaign, but it really is about looking forward at the new America, the
there
new
you
America
go.
that I've been talking about since
Yeah,
1989.
and she's being very specific about what kind of change we can have, and it's real. I mean,
Yeah.
the fact of the matter is that we were already headed down that area until we got this Supreme Court. Not
Oh,
not just with the most recent three hires. You know, when we had the 5-4 court,
yeah.
right? It was already making decisions. You know, the furthest to the liberal swing that the court ever made was the Warren Court, you know, and the Berger Court,
Mhm.
Roe versus Wade,
Oh, yeah.
1973. After that, it started swinging to the right.
Yeah.
Okay, and so even with a 5-4 court, it was already leaning 6-3, right?
Mhm.
Very frequently to the right and making decisions to the right. It started limiting the kind of defenses that could be used, right, by criminal defenses. It
Yeah.
started increasing the level of police power,
Mhm.
right? And you know the probability, what constituted probable cause, right, to arrest and search and seize and all the rest of that stuff, and they were okaying it, right? Remember the second Bush administration,
Mhm.
all of the no knock, remember that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, and in New York, you know, one of the most liberal cities in the freaking world, and what did they have? You know, the broken windows, right? Broken windows policy. You could bust them all. They what was it? Some 70% of the stops made by the police
Right.
in New York City were men of color, right?
Yeah.
Men of color.
Well, see, here's the thing. Kamala Harris, you've heard this line about how you want X to look like America. Well, we want the presidency to look like America. We want our democracy to look like America. We want everything to reflect what we are, and what we are is a multiracial, multi-ethnic democracy. We come from different places. And what are the policies and what are the strategies that the right, that Trump, that the Republicans are embracing? It's anti-diversity, anti-DEI, the immigrants, anti-immigration, anti the immigrants are taking your jobs. You know, like
No, no, no. I'm not worried about it because they're only taking black jobs.
yeah, right, right. But
I'm
see
not
here,
worried about it. That's not about
here's
me,
the
man.
thing about
That's not about me, man.
here's the thing about the
I got a brown ass job.
yeah. Yeah, I got a Filipino job. It's like talking on the internet with my Filipino friend.
I
That's
got a
my
brown
Filipino
ass.
job. No,
Man.
there's a lot of you look at the economic news today, you know, talking about jobs, and you know they're saying, hey, look, the jobs are going to the foreigners. We're a foreign country, and a lot of the foreigners are now U.S. citizens. That's one thing I forget. I forget to mention that because we are a nation of immigrants. And finally, here's a president who is the daughter of immigrants, or potential president, who is the daughter of immigrants, who can speak to this idea that hey, we're in a new era. We're not in the Trump era. He's almost the perfect foil for Kamala Harris, because Trump is this crusty old white guy who doesn't know diversity and feels that his best shot at keeping you know at winning the White House is by having these totally racist views that
Well, yeah, and but it works
well,
among
it
his,
shouldn't
his
work. It shouldn't work in 2024.
yeah, yeah, it works among his quote base, right?
Yeah.
But it's not going to work. It's actually going to alienate a whole hell of a lot of people.
Oh yeah, yeah,
You know, so even white folks don't like people being openly and blatantly racist. Okay,
yeah.
they might have some racist inclinations. They might have some beliefs that got proven to them, you know, in terms of their personal experience about certain groups having characteristics that they don't particularly like. They might get annoyed by folks speaking other languages than English, you know, around them in public places, that kind of thing. But they also are irritated by a lot of people of color in civil service jobs, and that's one of the targets, right?
Mhm.
Of 20, Project 2025.
Yeah,
Well, you know,
yeah.
one of the real reasons they want to get rid, you know, there are reasons that they call it a reduction of government, right? There's a lot
Right,
of overlap, and so I told you the premise is good. There is a lot of overlap. Okay,
right.
there are a lot of places where things can be cut, but underlying all of that, the massive level of cuts that they want to enact, is the fact that so many people of color are now part of what they call, right? What's that element? You know,
The civil service, the
yeah,
middle class.
inside the civil service. What do they
Well,
call it?
here's the thing. Here's the thing. You go to Washington D.C.
They call it the deep state, dude.
Right, oh, uh, the bureaucrats are the deep state. I thought the
That's what
wait,
they're doing, dude. It's the
I
deep
mean,
state.
the deep state to me is some kind is not all the blacks and all the minorities who are civil servants. To me, and this is my just assumption of the deep state because it's never really been truly defined. But whenever I hear deep state, I think, oh, it's referring to something sinister, something that's insidious to the system. It's like a bunch of like the deep state are like maybe a cabal of maybe 10, 20 people who like figure things out and decide how we're all going to march and how, you know, which way we're going to go. That to me, when I hear deep state, that's what I think. I don't think of the masses of people of color who work for the government.
You mean okay? So other the
But I
postal,
get your
all
point.
of the postal clerks, you know,
Those aren't the deep state. The
yeah,
postal clerks.
yeah, they're deep state. You know,
Oh well, all
you
right.
know,
Well, we have a different.
they're federal employees. Come on now, come
Yeah,
on
but
now.
I, I,
And who's behind the counter when you go get to, you know, when you go to a county building,
Mike
right? When you
Kaczynski,
go to a
Mike
county building
Kaczynski,
anywhere in California, you know, and
Mike
why the
Kaczynski.
hell are there so many Filipino nurses working in public facilities? I mean, what? What is that?
Yeah.
You know,
Hey, listen, look, I'm with you on your point, and I think you go to Washington D.C. and the middle class is made up of
there it
government
is.
government
There it
workers.
is.
You know,
People who
GS.
live all around Maryland and Virginia, close in,
Yeah.
and some even a little bit more distant, right? You know,
Yeah. Well,
they got federal jobs. They got federal jobs. A lot of
Princeton.
them are first generation immigrants.
Oh yeah, yeah. I
You
know.
know,
I know that. I lived in Montgomery County,
right on.
which is north of DC. The big Filipino area is Prince George's. It's
Yeah,
a big mix Filipino and African American, and then of course Virginia to the west, and you got Maryland going all the way out to like the coast, Ann Arbor, and there's a lot of government employees. I mean, but see, I guess you can call them the deep state, but I never saw them. I always thought the deep state was a kind of sinister thing, not this
no,
mar-
yeah, I agree with you. That's what they meant. That's what they want people to think. They want
yeah.
people to think that it's like the
Oh yeah,
satanic side of the Illuminati. You
yeah.
know, it's
However, yeah, it's just all these people who are on the GS scale
yeah,
up to 16,
they're,
17,
you
18,
know,
19, making a lot of money, costing us taxpayers. Because if we had our druthers as
yeah, are
Republicans,
they doing their job? I mean, if you read, 2025, if you read their proposal,
yeah,
right, it talks in terms that are very thinly veiled racial references.
yeah,
Okay, and so things like well, are they doing their job? What are we paying them for? Are they earning 40 hours a week of work? I mean, I remember when one of the short-lived chancellors of the CSU system, the California State University system that I'm retired from, right, said I want time clocks put in.
ooh,
I want people to clock in and show that they're actually earning that money, those salaries. I want you to show me that they're doing 40 hours of work per week. You know what our reaction was? Everybody was laughing their ass off because we're doing 60 and 70 hours a week, you idiot. And
yeah,
did you ever work in the classroom, you fool? What? You know, we,
well,
I loved it when he did that. I said, well, that's going to be a short timer. Then he
yeah.
was a short timer. What an idiot. Yeah.
Hey, all right. So back to Kamala. Um, I think this issue of is she black, is she Indian? I think it's gonna stay. I think it's gonna stay around for a while.
Well,
I don't
no,
think.
because they can't. Yes, it will, but it will because they can't accept it.
Oh yeah, they
They
can't
can't
accept
accept
it.
either the black or the Indian. That's really what's underneath it all. She
Yeah,
ain't white, man. I mean, she's
yeah.
a woman and she ain't white. So they're going to try and figure out some way to rationalize it because that's where their value scale is. And they
Well,
think that that's going to work with the rest of America. And I'm
yeah,
glad they think that. I'm glad they think that. Just keep pushing that button.
yeah. Well, they don't want to be anti-woman. They're already anti-woman with their abortion position, so they'll be anti-black and anti-Indian.
How can you say that when they're talking about taking away they
No,
already state
I'm
they're
saying they're
talking
already they're. I mean, they're already anti-women with their abortion view.
okay.
Yeah.
But
So
what about jobs? They also have a preference that women be at home. They
uh,
don't.
that's
That's
that.
their answer. That's their answer to okay. We got problems with childcare. That's because women are wanting to work.
Wait.
If they stayed at home, we wouldn't have problems with childcare.
That's JD Vance's personal view. I don't. Is that a Republican view in general that women stay
I'm
home?
looking at where they want to get rid of all of the
Oh, they
child
want to get
support
rid of childcare. Yeah.
programs. I mean, what's that?
All right. That's not necessarily a platform issue yet. Although we know well, the
If the
Republican
Democrats
platform.
have any brains, they'll make it a platform issue.
Yeah.
Childcare, holy shit!
Yeah. Well, all right. That's true. All right. It translates into women stay home.
Yeah.
Women don't have
Yeah.
jobs.
Well, one of you got to stay home, and
Yeah.
I know some stay-at-home dads.
Uh, they could hire a Filipino nanny. They're all over Park Avenue. I was
Yeah,
walking on Park Avenue. There's like,
yeah, but I'm telling them they got to fight for scale.
Yeah.
They need that
The
$25 an hour.
Filipino nannies. I was in New York not long ago, and I walked by one, and I looked at her, and she goes, "You don't want me to blow her cover." I have my white baby. I have my white baby.
The blower
She's in the
cover.
stroller with her white baby. Don't talk.
Oh shit! Oh man!
So anyway, hey, all right. So Kamala.
At least she recognized you as Filipino
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
because in my case they think I'm Hapon, so
Hapon. Oh,
they think I'm Hapon.
hapon. Hapon. Yeah,
And they're
the
not
hapon.
saying good. They're
Oh,
not talking good afternoon either.
you like this? You like the sushi, huh? You like
Yeah.
this?
Well, I actually do have that. But
All right,
anyway.
hey, look, let's switch to the Olympics real quick because in our time remaining,
Oh yeah,
I
we gotta go. Yeah, I gotta
I
go.
I have I have to admit that when I see the struggle of the athletes and they win, oh, what a satisfying release, and I get emotional. Like I see Lee Kiefer, who's half Filipino,
Yeah,
a
yeah.
fencer. When I see
Man,
her,
can she fight or what? She's scary.
I
She
she's
can
good.
fight.
Lee Kiefer. She
She's
comes
fun
from
to
a long
watch.
line of Kiefers, and once again,
Yeah.
Filipino mom,
Yep.
white father, and they are a fencing family. Her
Yeah, but
sister,
the way they play it is born in Tokyo, that kind of
yeah,
stuff. And,
yeah,
you never know what her ethnicity is. You say born in Tokyo, everybody's going to think she's half Japanese, right?
yeah. Like mom Filipino. They went to Notre Dame, good Catholic, except for her sister who fenced for Harvard. Her brother fenced for Notre Dame. I'm telling you, great Filipino American family, but typical half Filipino
Hmm.
on the mother's side.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
we don't get into that too much, but that's the way. That's the
No,
way that you have.
I have gotten into it on
Yeah.
your
But so
show.
what's it? I try to go the other way, to get the half Filipino in there. But what is the sexism involved in that dynamic? It's
What sexism?
considerable.
You're
Well,
making the assumption that,
the sexism of the white male to the Filipino woman.
yeah, a lot of times, okay, a lot of times sexism could be a major factor. All right, you're right. Okay, but a lot of it depends on the context of the meeting. How did they
Yeah,
meet? Where
yeah.
did they meet? Right.
War,
That makes yeah,
military.
military base.
You know,
Yeah,
I mean, that's
that is
usually how.
problematic. And we have, in fact, the caretakers that
Military.
we had for my mother, uh, as she aged. Were luckily they were Bisayan from the same region and they could speak Cebuano,
Yeah,
but one was divorced from a military man, and so that's really common, right?
sure.
And so
Yeah.
so people make their judgments based on that factor, but then it's dangerous to generalize from that, you know, to all of the relationships between white men and Filipino women.
Okay, but that's the pattern is
Yeah, it's clear that.
military situation, war situation, colonial situation.
Also, remember Cherry Blossoms,
Oh yeah,
their magazine.
yeah,
It was started by a Filipina and her Anglo husband, who lived at the time in Marin, right
yeah,
when they started it, and then they moved to Hawaii because they made so much money off of that.
yeah.
And what they had was basically a meet and greet magazine that showed pictures of Pinays, women in the Philippines, and gave a little blurb about their background, and then men would start correspondence with them,
Pen pal. Oh,
and pen pal, yeah, that
pen
was
pal.
the old Filipino tradition, was the pen pal thing. But
So
when we were talking about pen pal in the Filipino context, it was Filipino old timers
yeah,
developing relationships with Pinays in the Philippines. Okay, when they start talking about pen pal, it's a white guy,
yeah,
or sometimes other ethnicities getting their references through connections like cherry blossoms,
right.
and then bringing their mail order brides.
Yeah.
And there's a group of artists, right? Three well-known artists who did business under the name Mail Order Brides, the mob.
Yeah.
And they did that because it drew attention to the reality of those relationships. Yeah.
Well, I draw attention to it not necessarily to say they're all sexist or all racist, but that it's a problematic kind of thing when you deal with half Filipino. And it's not totally, I don't want to pass judgment. I mean, how I met my wife, who's white, through work circumstances, you know, uh, but rarely.
And
I
it's a cute story, folks. By the way,
I
I know
know.
the whole story, so
Wait,
it's
but
a cute story. But anyway.
I just think that there are people who only see when they think of the half Filipino, it's 90% is Filipino mother, white father.
Yeah.
And maybe, I don't know, maybe 10% now, because as more young people, I mean, when I see a Filipino guy with a white woman, I want to applaud. I say, hey, we're not alone. Hey, it's good. It's
I
good.
don't know. I hung out with a fast crowd, and so there were a lot of guys that had white girlfriends. But
White girlfriends, yeah. I mean, it's not it shouldn't be a big thing,
yeah.
but
Well,
but
my dad had white girlfriends.
yeah.
It's
Well,
hard to believe is that pre World War II, my dad had white girlfriends.
see, and here's the thing, and in the 20s and 30s, white girlfriends would normally get Filipinos beaten up. So there's that aspect
Yep.
of the whole mating thing.
Yep.
But anyway, this is a broader conversation about Lee Kiefer, the fencer, half Filipina, she's now won 3 gold medals
Right.
for fencing.
She's really terrific. I love watching her.
Yeah, she's
Um,
great.
but her husband and his buddy from San Francisco. They're both from San Francisco. They got eliminated. They didn't even make it to the podium rounds.
They she needs a
She needs
someone.
to coach them. She needs to coach them a little bit better. But it is so much fun watching her work, man. Because she's
Yeah,
so tiny, right? She's so tiny, and a lot of the people that she's fencing against
taller.
are tall, and
Yeah,
they got reach. I
yeah.
mean, when they do a flush, they're stretched out 8 feet, 10 feet.
I mean,
You know.
you've got to be good with the parry. Look, this is the thing about when I quit the football team because the coach wouldn't play me because I wouldn't cut my hair. That's the truth. I mean,
Oh, okay.
I was good. I was a good football player, but I had to do something for Jim, and so I joined the fencing team.
Oh, no kidding.
I was on the fencing team. Yeah, I fenced for a couple years, and then I didn't like the commitment. I didn't want the commitment to be a team guy to go and play other schools because I was on the baseball team, so I played the baseball. I didn't play football, but I was on the fencing, so I know all the moves. I know how that mask smells when you're
Yeah.
you're all. I mean, you sweat like a
Yeah, you do.
when you're there,
Yeah,
and we didn't have the
and
fancy
also spittle, saliva and stuff.
and we didn't have the fancy electronic stuff. Not in that. Not
No,
in the
no, they just tagged you and you had to bleed.
Yeah, yeah.
You
Right. And so, the person who had less blood on the no,
That's
it was
it.
a lot safer.
That's it.
But
It's
it
just
was
like
fun. The
that's just like
footwork
karate. Karate was like that.
and the footwork is just like boxing. The footwork is just like boxing.
That's right.
So you
That's
get the
true.
right hand and the left handers and the parries and
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah.
So I actually cried when I saw her win, and I
No
also
kidding.
well I get emotional when they get when they do their thing. I mean, the Olympics, you see the struggle of the athletes, and it's just emotional. Now, I don't get emotional about some of these other things because I guess you're not involved in the struggle, you're not seeing the struggle happen, but you're seeing someone make an announcement about hostages coming home or something. And I just, and being a news guy, I can keep that in check. But I have to admit, when I watch the Olympics, I watched a swimmer win, and she just all the wins are like, like just separate by milliseconds, right?
That's the
And
way the world's gotten.
it's really
And a lot of the people who are that close are training or even have the same coaches
oh
as
yeah,
the Americans that win. So I mean, it's really obvious, right? Right? You remember when everybody wanted a a Romanian coach
oh yeah, for the
gymnastics,
Judas, yeah,
right? I mean, you know, when people see a pattern and that pattern becomes clear over like 2 or 3 Olympics rounds,
yeah,
right? They're going to want to do that. So people are going to be looking for where are these women training? That took the gold in fencing.
yeah.
That was
Well,
cool.
yeah,
Scruggs, African American woman.
oh, yeah.
I think she was Harvard, right? In the
I don't know. I
you
don't
know,
know.
yeah, I think it was in East, one of the uppity schools.
Scruggs. I
Just
remember
like the one you
Scruggs,
went to.
fencer. I just, I like
Yeah,
the.
Scruggs, she was
I
cool.
don't. I don't know what happened to the Filipino. There was a Filipino pole vaulter who was like number 2 in the world. So we'll see that maybe when they do track and field.
Wow,
Now,
that's cool. Yeah, the
yeah,
track and field started today.
yeah. Now how about and so how about now you said you're going to watch judo.
Yeah, I have watched judo.
I thought judo was kind of cool.
It is, but you know,
I don't get it though. I don't get how
well,
they.
it's the way they score, and right now, one of the defenses, right, is you kind of curl up in a ball and just stop. You
Yeah.
stop attacking. That's and so that's become a method of defense, and you get yellow carded for that. Okay, because you're not engaging, right?
Because
And
I wasn't quite sure about how they were doing that because I couldn't tell how they weren't getting points for takedowns,
that's right.
at least the way they are in wrestling.
That's right.
And so I had to read the rules to figure out how this is working. But I liked watching judo because they're just tugging on each other's
Yeah,
clothes.
but see, a lot of I didn't. I was watching some of the finals, especially the heavyweight finals, and people got red carded out of the gold medal. And
Ah,
that's not a way to win. You want to see people actually take down. You want to see people get pinned. You want to see people using the basics of judo to
mm,
to get throws. You
yeah,
know, and they were trying to do that. You kept hearing osodogari, because that's one of the favorite throws, right? I mean,
yeah.
it's certainly one of my favorites. But
Yeah.
anyway, if I was going to get in a fight and I could get close enough, that's definitely what I would do. That's the first thing I would do. But,
I mean, they
but
were like, grabbing at lapels and the belt, and I, I,
sure,
I think I like judo more than I like, the other, the other big one now, jujitsu.
TKD, Taekwondo,
No, jujitsu. People are looking at,
Jiu-Jitsu. Yeah, I
I,
like them all. I like them all. I just don't like the way they're scoring judo now, and I
I
think
yeah.
yeah, when you ball up and just flatten out, they yellow card that, and I understand that, but you shouldn't allow somebody to win.
Well,
Uh,
that's what was surprising to me that you got down and then they got a yellow, and I said, why is he getting yellow? What do you do? And then so
because he stopped engaging.
yeah. To go back to what you're saying, Lauren Scruggs is Harvard.
Yeah,
She's from Queens,
yeah,
and
yeah. She was really good, but she was not a match for Kiefer. that
yeah. Well,
was cool, man. They went head to head.
here's the thing: Lauren Scruggs from Queens, philosophy major at Harvard. She got most of the play on the Today Show, which I was watching today and yesterday. I was watching the news as they were reporting. The fencing team got all of like 10 seconds, and it showed Scruggs winning with the winning point that gave the fencing team
The
the team
goal.
championship. Yeah, the
Yeah,
gold.
she
And
was the last.
they showed Scruggs, but and that's it. They didn't mention anything about she's at Harvard, she's from Queens, she's 21, she's African American. That's great,
Yeah, yeah.
but I I didn't I didn't put it together that
I
I
think
didn't
I
know.
think I think they have a they have a height restriction
Mhm.
on the fencing team because all of the women were short. Yeah,
Yeah, they look like gymnasts with
yeah, they
swords.
did. They did. It's true.
Actually, she's not that. Well, yeah, I guess Scruggs is kind of.
No, they're yeah, they were all pretty short. You
Yeah.
know,
Oh,
they're
here's her personal life. Scruggs is openly lesbian and currently dating a Harvard classmate. She is involved with the Peter Westbrook Foundation, which offers fencing lessons to children and teens who are members of underrepresented groups. So that's cool that she's lesbian, and that she's dating a Harvard classmate. But how about this? Did you hear the thing about the Algerian boxer,
yeah.
female Algerian boxer? I forget her name, but she really rocked this Italian woman who quit after 45 seconds, and they accused the Algerian of being a transgender boxer, which she's not. She's born female. She lives as a female. But wow, it's just you
Well,
know
I don't know. Italian pride, I guess. I don't know what the hell that is. That's really
yeah.
bad, though.
Yeah. I well, it's come up.
I guess she
It's,
came down. She came down so hard they equated her power with masculinity.
well, which is sad, but I think there's all this anti-trans stuff,
Sure.
especially from the ceremonies.
Hmm.
Opening ceremonies, they had some drag queens apparently, and some people got uptight about that. Um, I don't know. Anyway, I was surprised to hear that. Now, no one is mentioning. Have you watched the equestrian events?
I love them. Yeah,
Well,
I do watch them.
the big issue, if you, I guess, the gold medal events are tonight on the West Coast and tomorrow. The big issue for the equestrian events is that the riders and the trainers are cruel to their horses. Go to
Yeah,
the PETA, go to the PETA podcast and see how in dressage, you know how the horses' heads are curved so the chin touches their chest, the horse's chest. It's an unnatural thing. They train under cruel circumstances to get the horses to configure their
that
heads in a
posture
way.
to maintain that posture.
Yeah, and
It's for the look.
it's cute because hey, it looks like they're dancing on their tippy toes, but
Yeah,
it's cruel as heck. And uh, PETA is asking that dressage be banned.
I can see it.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a small event, although people do watch it. But anyway, it's just something for people to look out for. So, any favorite things that you saw in the Olympics that got you, or that you're looking
Well,
forward to?
some of my favorite stuff is coming up, but
Yeah, the
uh,
track and field.
archery was interesting. We do archery, Linda and I.
Boy, I'm surprised at how the arc for when you do archery, it's
Yeah,
like it actually is an arc over. It's not like a boom, straight line. It
no, it's yeah.
actually,
Depends on the distance and all the rest of that stuff. And I'm not great at it. When we were in college, Linda was better than me. She was
wow,
more accurate than me. But
archery, archery.
but I love it. I just love I love playing with the trajectory. I got
Yeah,
so I'm getting back into it again with really simple bow. I'm leaving the mechanics behind because we have compound bows, and that's like shooting a rifle.
yeah, yeah.
Is the
All
bow is
right.
very powerful and it shoots very little trajectory. It still has an arc, but
Yeah, remind me not to go to your house with an apple on my head.
yeah, all right.
No,
Well, where would you put it?
yeah, I'd eat the damn apple.
Put the core
All right.
back. Put the core back.
Yeah. So Dan, all right. So we'll be watching the Olympics. All right, and looking forward to more Kamala Harris. Oh,
I want to see how the breakdancing works out too.
yeah, I'm curious about the breakdancing too.
We
All right,
were. I watched surfing a lot.
I did. I watched a little surfing, not a lot, but I watched a little. How about what did you think, or what do you think is going to happen with the vice president pick? We'll end on that. We'll end on
Oh
that.
well, I still favor Shappy Chappy, Governor Shapiro.
Yeah.
I think it's coincidental, that there's going to be an announcement before the convention
Mhm.
in Pennsylvania. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it would be kind of So I think it's between Kelly, Cooper, distant, really distant possibility. I read something about him a couple of days
No,
ago.
Cooper. No, Cooper's out. He's
Yeah,
out.
that's what I thought. Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
he's
out.
out. He's out. So it's really Kelly. He's in the Senate, so I think he's out. I think it's between Walls and Shapiro.
Yeah,
But
that's good.
Walls gave them weird, and he's also that kind of macho white guy that can take on Trump. I
Uh,
I
yeah,
think he has an outside chance, Midwesterner from Minnesota, but he
yeah,
doesn't give them. He doesn't give him. He doesn't give him Pennsylvania.
yeah, that's right. Yep.
They need.
You need the bigger population.
I like.
Anyway, I
I
gotta
like these
go.
two walls. All right, there he goes.
I gotta
Daniel
go.
Phil Gonzalez. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
All right, there he goes. Daniel Phil Gonzalez, College of Ethnic Studies, San Francisco State University. We call on him because we can, and because he's good to converse with. All these brings in various aspects about the hostage story, about Kamala Harris, ethnicity, mail order brides, you name it. And archery. That could have been a bow and arrow. And then the back. All right, so that's it for our show today. Next week, the vice presidential picks. What's going to happen? I don't know. I kind of like Walls, but you don't hear much about him now since his weirdness. You know, the weird thing came up. He's the one who coined that. Shapiro's all over the place. I think they want Shapiro, but I think Walls would be better because I think Walls would. I think he can go toe to toe with the insurrectionists. I think he would match the bombastic base or those independents who might be torn to side with the bombastic base. I mean, because that to me is the key. If you are on the fence, independent, don't know who to go with, Kamala or Trump. Trump's saying, hey, I'm white, go with me. Okay, so you might go with him. But Walls could say, hey, I'm white too. Come with me. I think that's better parry. Although, if it's Shapiro saying, hey, I'm white too, come with me. Well, in Pennsylvania, but in Michigan, Arizona, Georgia, I don't know. Close. I don't think Andy Bashir is his. I don't think it's his time yet. I like him, but we'll see. That's all next week. All right. So have a good weekend. Watch the replays. We had a good week. Remember to slow down, do nothing. Every now and then makes a difference. Show love when you can. And so, as I wish for me, I wish for you. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. And may you live with ease. Emil Guillermo here. Till next time. YouTube at Emil Amok 1. Twitter at Emil Amok. Facebook, fb.com at Emil Amok. Or fb.com/Emil Guillermo or /EmilGuillermo.media. Check us out. Till then. Maha.